Welcome to the Wandering Poet Cafe. We have a poetry lesson analysis here for you today on Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. This is a Robert Frost poem. He called it his best bid for remembrance. It was published in 1923, written the year before in 22, in a book called New Hampshire. The story of this poem is Frost was working on the book New Hampshire all night long on a long poem. He went out at sunrise, and all of a sudden the idea for stopping by woods rained down on him about the snowy evening and the little horse, as if I had had a hallucination, he said, and he wrote it in just a few minutes. So the basic plot summary of the poem is the speaker is in the woods at evening, and it begins to snow. He stops on his way. He's on horseback, and he's taking in the quiet of the snow and the snowfall. And then his horse is rattling his bells, and the speaker or the poem sort of personifies the horse, as if asking, why are we stopping? What's the problem? And then the speaker at the end acknowledges that the woods are lovely, dark, and deep, but has promises to keep, has responsibilities to attend to, and so continues on the way. The subject of the poem is simple, but what really elevates it is the musicality of the language that helps to evoke the scene and the sensation that Robert Frost is going for. So first of all, he creates that by making four even stanzas of 4 lines apiece. There is a chain rhyme scheme, meaning the rhyme scheme of the first to the second to the third stanza connects in an AABA, and then a BBCB, and then a CCDD rhyme scheme, and then for the final stanza, it's DDDD with a finality to it. As far as the meter or the rhythm of the poem is concerned, it's written in iambic tetrameter, which is 4 feet of iambs. An iamb is a da-da syllable. So it's 2 syllables, unstressed, followed by stressed. It's a very natural type of rhythm that kind of flows off the tongue, and the 4 beats means there's only 8 syllables to a line, so it gives it a kind of light-footed quality to the rhythm. The style that this is written in, by the way, is called a rubaiyat, and you can read the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, translated by Edward Fitzgerald, who, I guess that Persian poet, invented this poetry form. But so that's the basics with the rhyme scheme and the rhythm. Now what I want to get into here is a lesson about the sound devices, because that's where the poem really gets interesting. Here you'll see the directions. Read the poem and underline all instances of alliteration, circle all instances of assonance, and highlight all instances of consonance. So alliteration is the musical device where the first sound or letter of the words is the same in close succession, like watch his woods, the W sound repeating. Assonance is a device where a vowel sound repeats in an area, like an A or an O or an E sound. And then consonance is the same thing, but with a consonant sound. So like K sounds or T sounds or V sounds repeating in a kind of condensed area to create a musical quality. Let's start with the alliteration. You've got these and think in the first line of the poem, his and house in the second line, watch and woods in the fourth line, right? And so all that combined with the rhythm creates this sensation of quiet. You're in the woods, it's evening, snow is falling. There's a comfort to that as well as a quiet to it. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. It's a lot of soft sounds, the O sound echoing throughout, the oo sound, the I, a lot of is, like his, is, in, village, the watch, woods, the W sound. These are all a lot of soft sounds to create that impression. Looking elsewhere in the stanza 2, farmhouse and frozen, there's another alliteration. You've got in stanza 3, the only other sounds, the sweep, right? Sound and sweep. The first line of the final stanza, the woods are lovely, dark, and deep, that D sound. So that's alliteration in the poem. Moving on to assonance. For example, in the first stanza, like I said, is and in, that village, think, that's a lot of short I sounds. You've also got not and stopping. He will not see me stopping here. If you continue down into the second stanza, near, between, evening, year, that E sound. A really lovely assonance is in the final two lines of stanza 3. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The E sound and the ow sound kind of chime against each other to kind of create the sensation of that sweeping snowfall coming down out of the sky. And then finally, consonants, whose, woods, these are, right? That S sound repeating. House, is, see, me, stopping, here, snow, right? That's S. So that S sound is another soft sound that creates that melodic and quiet feeling in the first stanza. And then in the second stanza, Robert Frost shakes that up with harder like more cacophony, like R sounds: horse, queer, near, farmhouse, frozen, darkest, right? So that R sound. You've also got, the Q sound of queer, the K sound of darkest, the T sound of little. And so all of that, T also in little, must, think, it, right? So those are harsher sounds. They're k and t. And so that reflects that the horse is like, asking what's the problem here, and then he's going to give his harness bells a shake, and that's the only like loud sound in the scene here. So those are kind of the ways Robert Frost is able to use these musical devices to create really a beautiful soundscape in his poem as well, and just flesh it out. It's almost like a Chinese landscape poem in a way. Beautiful. And then the theme of, the contrast between wanting to stay and take it in versus having miles to go before you sleep. Really a great poem. And then finally, if you do want to use this as a lesson to teach poetry, teach Robert Frost, here are 8 questions, discussion, or response questions. Number 1, summarize what happens in this poem. 2, how many syllables are in each line? What literary device measures the count of the syllables? That's rhythm, meter. 3, name the alliteration in line 4. 4, what is the assonance in lines 11, 12 of the poem? Hint, there are 2 different sounds, and that's what I was talking about, the easy sweep of downy flake. And this is a great way to get your students close reading on a text, on a poem. Number 5, how does the rhyme scheme in stanza 4 differ compared to stanzas 1 to 3? 6, personification is when the writer applies human traits to non-human beings or things. Does this poem contain personification? Explain why or why not. Number 7, explain the meaning of the poem's final stanza. What do these lines reveal about the speaker's character? And 8, in one word or phrase, what do you think is the theme of this poem? Okay, so that's a lesson for you and an analysis breakdown of Robert Frost's Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. If you subscribe to the channel, you can see more poetry lessons and readings every week. Let us know what you think in the comments. Give us some suggestions of other poems you'd like to see a lesson on, and hopefully we'll see you next time. Thank you.